Okay, so we're going to do a quick video today, trick tutorial thing on the half backflip roll yaw out thing that people have been asking me about a lot in a couple of my recent videos. I have no idea what the trick's called. I don't really give tricks a name, and I actually have no idea how I do it. Usually with complicated tricks I have to kind of break them down into like steps to teach myself, but this, I don't know, I just tried it one day and it worked, and now I just keep doing it. So Willard is the first person, at least the OG for this trick, at least I think so. Maybe Johnny did it first or something. That kind of trick, like that kind of style, flowy kind of thing, looks really cool. It's fun to do when you're sort of moving away from an object, or you've just gone through a gap or something and you're looking back towards it and you've got that slow tilt away from it. So I'm gonna put the chest cam on, we're gonna do the slow-mo thing of what my sticks are doing. I don't know, I'll probably learn something as well. Okay, we're here. So the idea of what I'm gonna do today is we're gonna examine the one trick, but this is basically a theory that you can apply to learning just about anything. So when I find any trick, when I see somebody do something really cool, if it requires like multiple stick inputs, and by that I mean like a combination of yaw and roll or whatever, if I can't do it straight away, then I'll break it down into like stages and practice each individual stage and then think about trying to link it together. Because the idea is that you want to get the entire movement to the point where it doesn't require any conscious thought, and that's what allows you to do it on link, like do it on flow with other tricks without really having to think while you're flying. So pretty simple setup. We've got the GoPro here, these two, sync them up together. This is the other thing about learning to do tricks is, and I have done this a couple of times in the past, is you can actually basically do what I'm doing now in order to learn. Like I had to do this with inverted yaw spins. If you just keep practicing and you can't get it right and you can't figure out why you can't get it right, get a chest cam and record what you're doing with your sticks, sync it with your video, so you can see, one, you can slow it down and go frame by frame and figure out like exactly what it is that you're doing. You can tell what you're doing wrong, and then you can tell what input it is that you're giving at any given time, and then you can start working towards correcting it. Because if you just keep practicing the same thing but you're doing it the wrong way, you're just making that muscle memory worse and worse and worse and more ingrained, and it's harder to fix it later on.
Just cruising around for a little bit. Okay, so the trick we want to practice is, that's kind of it. I actually find it harder to do it through a bigger gap than a smaller gap, because, I don't know, I gotta get a good version of it. I think I need to be going faster as well, so. Okay, so there I was leaning too much back pitch on. Let's go through here. So what I'm doing there is getting the first part of the trick wrong. This is the thing, I gotta warm up first before I can do these tricks properly. Oh, this is not going very well. Trick tutorial on a trick that I can't even do. You know, you have those flying days where it doesn't matter what you do, you just fly like crap anyway. Well, that's today for me. But we'll press on, because maybe you can learn something from what I'm not doing correctly. I'm just going to try and do this trick a couple of times until I get it right. I suppose that's kind of it. So you're going to come through the gap with a decent amount of pace. Okay, so yeah, you coming up, over, through, and then through the gap. You do have to be carrying a decent amount of pace, because you're using that forward momentum once you flick backwards to just carry the quad forward. That did not work at all. That was a little bit better, I think. And so to learn that, if I were trying to learn that from scratch, it would be about doing tricks like that. Because the first half of the trick is a half flip, and you need to have the muscle memory to know exactly, depending on your stick rates, what's a half flip. So just doing that over and over again. And then you can get real high and just go inverted and figure out what that slow roll rate, what you want that to look like. And from that point, it's just about combining the two, and that's just going to be a practice thing. And as I said, if you're finding that you're consistently doing the wrong thing over, then you can set up your stick cam like this and just, you know, look at exactly what your inputs are, and then you can figure out what you're doing wrong and change it from there. So we're going to go back to the computer, and then I'll screen capture my Premiere, sync the two videos together, and I can talk you through examining the video and figuring out what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, and we can go from there.
Okay, we are back in the lab looking at the video. So this whole thing is a video from today. It's mostly edited, and I've just picked out a couple of times when I did the trick in question either well or not that well. So what you can do is, well, you basically just find I've just set these markers here, and we're just going to go through, you stretch the timeline out, and then you can just go through and be like, okay, so I'm at this point, you can see I'm on full throttle there, and then hopefully as soon as I throttle back, it should start to roll back, pitch back. Yep. So I'm on both sticks right at the bottom there until the quad gets to looking back the other way. But you can see the progressively putting in the roll as we're getting to about this point here. My finger is starting to move to this direction. And the amount of like pitch, I'm putting a little bit of pitch, like while pulling the pitch off, I suppose, so that I'm not flipping out of it anymore. It's just going to stay looking back, and then you're just rolling. So you're not moving back this way anymore. You're just doing this. Looking back, and then when you throttle up is really like, the longer you can leave it before you have to throttle up, the better, because you're going to maintain that rearward momentum. But obviously that just depends how close you are to the ground and all that sort of thing. So so that's, I suppose, one of the better examples. And then if we go to this next one, we'll have a look. What do I do wrong here? So throttle up, same thing. So you can see like that's about the point where I should have stopped the flip and started rolling, but I'm still flipping until I get to the point where I'm looking at the ground again. So I don't know, that was probably just brain fade and forgetting to do the inputs properly. As I said, I was flying pretty rubbish today, and you know, sometimes your brain just it's just not on the ball, which is pretty much what happened today. But it's probably a better thing because we've got some examples of it, the trick being done reasonably well. We've got some examples of it being done like really not very well. So we can see a bit of both, and this is what you'll find. Like, you don't even have to like make this stuff into videos, but if you're trying to learn, you know, how to do a certain trick and you know that you're doing it wrong consistently, you need to know why. Because like when I was doing inverted yaw spins, for example, I was convinced that I was under rotating. So you'd go like flip upside down and then you start the rotation, and I thought that I wasn't doing a full rotation, but in actual fact I was over rotating. But because the trick is done so quickly, if you're just watching back your video in real time, or you're just like remembering what you've done, then you know, you can just get this idea in your head that you're doing a certain thing and keep trying to correct that, but in actual fact you're just making it worse. So that's where we get here. So yeah, okay, halfway back, and then yeah, so same again. This is probably almost a little bit of an over rotation, but if anything it looks better because I'm looking, the object that I'm looking at, you can see the car there, and you know, there's a little bit more visually appealing there. Actually, I'd say at that's the point where I should have maintained that point of reference in the middle, but you can see as I continue, I've probably still got a little bit too much pitch on, and so I'm losing that reference point. Ideally, I would have wanted that stick right back in the middle here, across to the right, so that I'm still doing the roll, but not still pitching. So these are, you know, these are the things that I know I can work on. Generally, I can do this trick reasonably well. It's not that much of an issue. Just, you know, today was a particularly bad example, but even still, you know, obviously I can learn from this footage and just keep it in mind for the next time. So yeah, there you go. There's just as I said, it's a basic theory that you can apply to any sort of trick that you want to learn. You just want to break it down into stages, practice those stages, and if you're still not getting it properly, then you can go back and do, you know, review footage like this. And I know that seems like a ridiculously convoluted way of trying to teach yourself, you know, potentially a pretty basic trick, but at the same time, if it helps you get to that point where you can do it without thinking, then that's just another trick that you can add to your box of tricks, I suppose, that, you know, makes the whole flying experience more fun when you do go out to just mess around. So you know, it comes back to that whole argument about flow and how do you get to that point where you can make all of your tricks like flow in one into the other, and that you need to be, for me, I need to do this sort of stuff occasionally, go through and just refine the tricks that I'm doing and make sure that I'm doing them correctly and I don't have to put too much conscious thought into it when I actually just want to go out for a session, because I've refined the tricks enough that they're sort of second nature. So yeah, that's my theory, and I hope it helps.